What if you had access to, well, a blueprint for success and wisdom? One refined over 2 millennia from one of history's most brilliant and maybe most provocative
That's
minds.
quite a thought, isn't it?
It is, and we're about to delve into just such a treasure today.
Hmm.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into an incredible ancient text, the Chanakya Neeti.
Right.
It's this collection of aphorisms and really practical advice attributed to Chanakya, also known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta.
A truly pivotal figure in ancient Indian history, renowned as a royal advisor, a strategist,
Ah,
a political philosopher, really.
exactly.
And what's truly remarkable about the Chanakya Neeti, I think, is that these ideas, conceived, compiled thousands of years ago,
Thousands.
they offer surprisingly relevant and sometimes, startling insights into almost everything. Personal conduct, relationships, economics, statecraft.
It's not just some historical curiosity collecting dust.
Not at all. It's a distillation of knowledge that remains profoundly applicable, still useful.
So our mission for this deep dive, we want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the real gems from this ancient scripture.
Okay.
We're going to explore what Chanakya believed were the cornerstones of, well, a well-lived life and a well-governed society.
Hmm.
And help you see how these timeless, often pretty blunt principles might resonate with your own world today.
Indeed. We'll probably start by examining his foundational beliefs. They're often rooted in a reverence for knowledge, higher powers,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Right.
And from there, we'll transition into his strikingly pragmatic advice for everyday living, for leadership, even the intricate dance of human relationships.
And some of it might feel audacious,
Yeah.
challenging.
Oh, definitely. You might find some of his perspectives quite challenging,
Mhm.
but they consistently aim for practical utility, long-term benefit,
Mhm.
not sentimentality.
Lee wasn't about feeling good,
I
necessarily.
always know more about what works.
So how do we make sense of all this profound ancient wisdom for you, our listener?
Good question.
Well, we're going to break down these sometimes dense ideas into memorable details, those tangible aha moments,
Right.
giving you a shortcut, hopefully, to being truly well-informed on this incredible body of work. Let's get started.
Okay, so it's fascinating, isn't it, how Chanakya, this figure famed for his strategic, sometimes even ruthless pragmatism,
Mm-hmm. Very pragmatic.
he begins the very first sloka, the verse of the Chanakya Neeti, not with some immediate policy directive, but with a profound invocation.
Right. He bows to Lord Vishnu.
Yeah, revering him as the Lord of the three worlds, heaven, earth, and the netherworld.
In this opening, it really isn't just ritualistic, is it? It's much more than that. It sets the entire tone for the work.
How so?
Well, it profoundly underscores the belief that even the most, worldly pursuits like politics and governance, they can and maybe should be imbued with a spiritual or ethical foundation.
So knowledge is most valuable when it's grounded. Exactly. When it's understood within a broader moral framework. It's almost as if he's saying, look, I'm seeking wisdom from a higher source to guide this very worldly, very practical pursuit.
That's interesting. It's not something you see often today.
Not in, say, a modern political science textbook.
Yeah.
They usually jump straight into empirical data, theoretical frameworks.
There's no invocations there.
No. Devoid of any such spiritual or ethical grounding in the very first lines. Chanakya's approach immediately tells you his political science isn't just about power for power's sake.
It's about something more. Righteousness, order?
Righteousness, cosmic order, exactly. It grounds the entire text in this sense of purpose, this quest for maybe unobstructed completion of his work, aligned with a greater design.
It's not just about what works, but what works within a maybe divinely ordained order.
Precisely.
Okay. So building on that foundation of purpose, Chanakya then turns his attention to something very practical. Where should one actually live?
Mm-hmm. Basic necessities?
He gives some very direct advice on what makes a place truly livable. He actually advises against residing, even for a single day, in a place lacking 5 key elements.
5 specific things. Let's see if I remember. A wealthy person.
Yep, a wealthy person, a learned person. Specifically, he says, a Vebapi scholar.
Right. A king or government.
A doctor.
And a river. Yeah.
Exactly. The 5 essentials.
And the specific list, it isn't just about comfort, is it? It's really about survival, the holistic thriving of a community.
So each element is crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Crucial for different aspects of life. Their absence, in Chanakya's view, makes a place basically uninhabitable in the long run. Let's break them down a bit.
Okay.
The wealthy person, that's not just for luxury. They represent capital, economic
It'll
activity.
be safety net, financial support.
Financial support in times of need, yes.
Yeah.
And just the engine of commerce, stability.
Makes sense. Then the learned person, the Vedapathy scholar.
Not just for spiritual guidance, though that's part of it. They embody intellectual growth,
Yeah.
education, moral wisdom, preserving culture.
The intellectual and ethical compass.
That's a good way to put it, yes.
Yeah.
Then the king or government. That's pretty straightforward.
Law and order, protection.
Governance, protection from external threats.
Right.
Without that, it's chaos.
Right. And the doctor.
Basic healthcare, well-being,
Yes.
essential for productivity, happiness.
Obvious but crucial. And finally, the river.
Perhaps the most fundamental, guarantees water supply, essential for sustenance, agriculture, hygiene, everything.
So what's the modern equivalent? Can we even draw one?
I think we can. You could argue it translates pretty directly to access to capital.
Okay, the wealthy person.
Right. Robust educational and intellectual institutions.
The learned person.
Good governance, rule of law,
The king.
comprehensive healthcare system,
The doctor.
and vital infrastructure, especially clean water and energy.
The river. Wow, it maps pretty well.
It does. And the aha moment here, I think, is recognizing that even in our super specialized modern world, fundamental societal stability still hinges on these interlinked components.
It's like pieces of a puzzle.
Exactly. Think about a major tech hub today, say Silicon Valley. Chanakya would probably look at it and evaluate it not just by its innovation.
But by these 5 things.
Yes. Does it have venture capitalists? The wealthy people? World-class universities? The learned people? Efficient local government? Regulatory frameworks? The king? Top-tier medical facilities? The doctor? Reliable utilities? Power? Water? The river?
And when one piece breaks down.
The whole system starts to fray, just like he predicted. If housing costs price out essential workers, if infrastructure crumbles, it impacts everything.
It forces you to think about integrated development, not just isolated projects.
Precisely. City planners, policymakers should really take note.
So he lays out this blueprint for a thriving community. But Chanakya, being Chanakya,
Always the pragmatist.
he brings it right back down to the individual. Because what good is a perfect society if you, as an individual, aren't actively shaping your own success within it?
Personal agency.
And this is where he gives some truly direct, almost startlingly simple advice in Sloka 11. Poverty is destroyed by effort.
Udyam, effort or enterprise.
Sin by chanting.
Japa, spiritual practice.
Conflict by silence.
Mon, knowing when not to speak.
And fear by staying awake or vigilant.
Jate, awareness, preparedness.
It's about actively shaping your reality, not just waiting for luck.
And what's really compelling about this sloka is how incredibly active these solutions are.
No passivity here.
None. For poverty, it's udyam effort, a direct link between hard work and getting out of hardship. Timeless stuff.
You hear that everywhere today.
You do. For sin, it's japa, chanting. It's not just ritual, it's inner work. Purification, moral guidance, essential for ethical living.
Right. And conflict. Silence, mon.
A really practical strategy. Avoid arguments, de-escalate things, keep your peace. It's basically emotional intelligence 101.
Knowing when to hold your tongue.
Absolutely. And for fear, jagte, staying vigilant, awareness, preparedness, proactive planning to mitigate dangers, like modern risk assessment.
So it's all about taking control.
Exactly. Whether it's through physical labor, spiritual discipline, emotional intelligence, or just sheer attentiveness, it's a proactive approach to well-being and problem solving.
And you're right, so much modern self-help echoes this.
Completely. Work hard, practice mindfulness, choose your battles, be prepared. These aren't new ideas. They're ancient wisdom, refined over centuries by observing human nature.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something that always sparks debate, no matter the era, relationships.
Ah, yes. Always complex.
And Chanakya offers some, well, rather blunt advice on choosing a life partner. This is in Sloka 14.
Let me guess, it's probably not about romance.
Not exactly. He advises a wise person to marry a girl from a good family. The term is kulaja.
Right, from a noble lineage.
Even if she isn't, conventionally beautiful. But he strongly warns never to marry a girl from a low family, a nicha kula.
Even if she's beautiful and well-behaved.
Even then, the rationale he gives is that marriage should be among equals in family status. It definitely highlights how different eras prioritize different things, doesn't it? It makes you think about what we value most now.
It really does. And this advice, it's so deeply rooted in those ancient societal structures. It prioritizes family background, social standing over individual qualities like beauty or even, current good conduct.
So the assumption is lineage carries everything. Values, upbringing.
That seems to be the underlying assumption.
Yeah.
That Kula, lineage, carries traditions, ingrained values, and upbringing that he saw as fundamental for a successful, harmonious marriage.
It reflects a strong belief in environment, inherited traits.
Absolutely. While modern society tends to emphasize individual choice, chemistry, compatibility,
Love conquers all.
right?
Right.
That's the ideal, yes. But Chanakya, ever the pragmatist, suggests that a stable foundation from similar backgrounds actually reduces potential conflicts. It ensures continuity of values. And that, in his view, was crucial for long-term marital success.
Okay, so how could we even interpret that today? Not literally, perhaps.
Well, not literally marrying based on Kulaja or Nietzsche Kula, but maybe a similar sentiment exists when people prefer partners from, say, similar socioeconomic backgrounds or educational levels or shared cultural heritage,
That still happens for sure.
and those similarities can contribute to smoother relationships. Fewer fundamental clashes on worldviews, expectations, communication styles.
So it pushes us to think about what foundational things really matter for the long haul, beyond just initial attraction.
Exactly. What values, what kind of upbringing creates compatibility? It's a challenging thought.
Okay, from marriage to friendship.
Mhm.
Chanakya's advice stays incredibly pragmatic, maybe even a bit harsh at first glance.
Let me guess, don't trust anyone.
Almost. In Sloka 6, he says one should never trust a bad friend. Fair enough.
Okay.
But then he says don't fully trust even a good friend.
Not even a good one. Why?
His warning is stark.
Good.
An angered friend might reveal all your secrets.
Betrayal and anger.
Exactly. He elaborates further, suggesting that even a Langota, that term for a really close childhood friend, someone you've shared everything with,
Your closest confidant.
even they shouldn't know all your secrets.
Yeah.
Because emotions shift. Anger, perceived betrayal, that bond can fray, and suddenly confidential information gets weaponized.
Blackmail. Exposure.
Right. It sounds a bit like a strategic manual for social interaction, doesn't it? Always keep something in reserve.
It does. And what's fascinating is that emphasis on protecting your vulnerabilities. It's not really about cynicism, is it? Or distrusting people's current intentions.
More about acknowledging human fallibility.
Precisely. Emotions can shift, loyalties can waver in anger. It's about prudence, self-preservation, understanding the vulnerability that comes with revealing secrets.
It raises a tough question, though. How do you balance trust and caution without becoming totally isolated or cynical?
That's the million-dollar question. And we've all heard stories, right, or seen public examples where secrets get exposed after a fallout.
Happens all the time.
And this ancient advice, it's echoed in modern security practices. Data security, information security.
Compartmentalize. Need-to-know basis.
Exactly. Even within trusted circles. It's sophisticated risk management, but for personal connections.
Okay, but there's a flip side to that caution, right? He also talks about the importance of good company.
Yes, definitely.
Hmm.
In Sloka 5, he talks about noble people, kulina. He says once they befriend someone, they remain loyal, start to finish. They uphold the dharma, the duty of companionship.
So these are the people you should seek out.
Especially for leaders. He advises kings to specifically associate with noble persons for good counsel. Because these individuals, due to their high values, their upbringing, they don't resort to lowly tactics or deceit.
So it's about seeking out reliable character, especially in advisors.
Exactly. Looking at the bigger picture, it emphasizes the huge long-term strategic advantage of surrounding yourself with people of integrity.
It's not just what they can do for you.
No, it's how they will act under pressure, in tough times. In Chanakya's view, their kula, their lineage, often indicated their dharma, their righteous conduct, their steadfastness.
Which raises that question again. How do we identify noble people today when those traditional markers aren't really there?
Good point. Today, it might translate to looking for individuals with a proven track record, ethical behavior, professional integrity, consistent loyalty, regardless of family name or background.
Demonstrated values over short-term gain.
That's it. A quality that's still indispensable. Business leadership, personal life, anything. Choose your inner circle wisely, because their character shapes your outcomes.
And he's equally clear about detrimental relationships. He doesn't mince words at all.
No beating around the bush with Chanakya.
In Sloka 13, he poses these rhetorical questions. How can citizens be happy under a wicked king? How can you find joy with a bad friend? How can there be happiness at home with a bad wife? How can you gain fame teaching a whippet or foolish disciple?
And his conclusion.
Blunt. It's better to be without them than to have them,
Cut them loose.
basically. Therefore, seek a good king, a good friend, marry a good woman, from a noble family, he adds, for happiness. Choose a worthy disciple. It's a powerful message about proactively removing toxicity.
Absolutely. Self-preservation, pursuing genuine well-being.
It's about protecting yourself.
And what's striking is the pragmatic calculus. He doesn't just lament these bad situations. He prescribes avoidance.
Be highly discerning.
Extremely discerning about who you allow into your sphere of influence, because their negative impact can just outweigh any potential benefits. It can lead to real unhappiness, even ruin.
But what if you can't completely avoid difficult people? Work, family, maybe?
That's the modern challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chanakya's advice pushes you towards discerning judgment. First, recognizing some relationships just aren't worth the cost, if avoidance isn't possible. Maybe it means setting firm boundaries.
Limiting interaction.
Limiting interaction, refusing to share sensitive info, not engaging on certain topics, prioritizing your well-being by carefully curating those interactions, even if you can't physically remove yourself.
Okay, let's dig into Chanakya's insights on human nature itself. He makes a crucial observation in Sloka 4. He notes that even two people born from the same womb, same astrological constellation, they might not have similar temperaments or behaviors.
Nature versus nurture, almost.
He uses this vivid example of a berry tree. It produces both edible berries and sharp thorns. Same source, different outcomes.
Right. And he says the same for twins, born from the same mother, but potentially very different natures.
It highlights that individuality is powerful, maybe even unpredictable, even in seemingly identical circumstances.
Exactly. It's a profound recognition of human variability. The complex interplay of prakriti, one's innate nature, and sanskara, upbringing or conditioning.
So individual disposition varies hugely.
It can, yes, even with identical starting points. And that challenges simplistic assumptions about uniformity based on shared origins.
What are the implications of that?
Huge implications. Think about, say, modern HR, designing a one-size-fits-all training program. Chanakya is basically saying, hold on, even people from the same background will have different aptitudes, motivations, temperaments.
So tailor the approach.
Ideally. In education, it means recognizing diverse learning styles. A single curriculum won't suit everyone. In governance, it means policies should consider individual variations, not impose rigid uniformity. Understand people will respond differently based on their inherent inclinations.
It encourages us to appreciate and manage differences, not expect everyone to be the same.
Precisely. It challenges broad generalizations about groups of people.
Okay, moving on to another profound idea, karma. He links individual actions not just to personal consequences, but to this ripple effect, across relationships, even the whole kingdom.
Yes, he presents this dual view of karma. In Sloka 9, it's individual responsibility. A living being performs actions, experiences the fruits, wanders through birth and death. Good actions lead to happiness, bad actions to sorrow, direct accountability.
Straightforward enough. But
then, in Sloka 10, he introduces this idea of shared or collective responsibility within a hierarchy.
how does that work?
He asserts that the king suffers for the sins of the kingdom, the priest for the king's sins, the husband for the wife's sins, the guru for the disciple's sins.
Why?
Because, he explains, they failed in their duty of guidance and control.
Wow. So leaders are responsible for the conduct of those under them.
That's the implication. What's fascinating is this concept of indirect accountability. True leadership isn't just giving orders or collecting taxes. It's actively ensuring the moral and ethical conduct of your subjects, family, students by providing proper guidance and maintaining appropriate control.
It puts a heavy burden on those in authority.
A profound burden. They bear responsibility for others' actions if they fail to guide them correctly. It raises that question again. How do we define and enact this kind of collective responsibility today?
In companies, family.
Yeah, exactly. In a corporate setting, maybe a CEO is ultimately responsible not just for profit, but for the ethical climate, employee actions, supply chain ethics, environmental impact.
It broadens the scope of responsibility massively.
It does. For parents, it underscores their deep influence and responsibility in shaping their children's character. It implies leaders have a moral obligation to prevent wrongdoing, not just punish it after the fact. Accountability becomes much wider than just individual culpability.
Okay, Chanakya really doesn't hold back when discussing ignorance and bad habits. He uses incredibly blunt language.
He certainly doesn't sugarcoat things.
In Sloka 10, he says those who slander the Vedas, sacred knowledge, wisdom, good conduct, or peaceful people, they're fools, worthless. They harm society and should be abandoned.
Strong words.
And then an even stronger blow in Sloka 21. Meat-eaters, drunkards, and fools are considered animals in human form and a burden on the earth.
Wow. That's intense.
What does that tell us about his view? Why categorize certain behaviors so harshly?
Well, looking at the broader implications, it clearly speaks to the foundational importance he places on wisdom and virtuous living.
It's essential for him.
Absolutely. He sees those who disparage knowledge and virtue, especially the Vedas, as the source of wisdom as fundamentally destructive to social order, to personal progress.
And the animals in human form comparison.
It underscores his idea that a lack of moral conduct and intellect reduces humans to a base existence, regardless of their physical form. It's not just about personal ethics, it's about societal health.
So what are the modern equivalents of these burdens?
That's a challenging question. Maybe the willful spread of dangerous misinformation, widespread addiction to destructive habits, a fundamental rejection of science in critical areas.
Things that undermine societal well-being.
Exactly. Chanakya's perspective is a stark call to value and uphold intellectual and moral integrity. He suggests that eroding these values is a direct threat to civilization itself.
Okay, on a more positive note, this next point is a really beautiful redefinition of beauty and value.
Yes. Sloka 11.
He contrasts superficial appearance with true merit. He says hands are beautiful through charity, Diana, not by wearing bracelets.
The function over the form.
Right. The body is clean through bathing, not by applying sandalwood paste. Satisfaction comes from respect, Manana, not just from eating food.
Inner state over outer consumption.
And liberation, Janana, is attained through knowledge, not through physical adornment. It shifts the focus entirely, doesn't it? From the superficial to the substantial.
It really does. What's profound is how he distinguishes between that external beautification or fleeting satisfaction and the true internal qualities that bring lasting value and deep contentment.
He prioritizes purpose, function.
Purpose and function over mere appearance or transient pleasure, absolutely. True adornment is what enriches the soul and society, not just the body. The hand's beauty is in giving. The body's purity is natural cleanliness. Satisfaction is earned respect. Liberation is inner wisdom.
So, in our appearance-obsessed world.
Exactly. This raises that important question. How can we cultivate a deeper appreciation for these internal beauties? Generosity, cleanliness of spirit, earned respect, profound knowledge.
When everything pushes us towards the external.
His philosophy encourages a radical reevaluation of what truly constitutes worth and beauty in a person, pushing us to look inward for genuine fulfillment.
Okay, next up is quite an image he conjures. He points out in Sloka 8 that while a snake's poison is in its tooth,
Specific location.
a fly is in its head, a scorpion's in its tail. But a wicked person, they have poison throughout their entire body.
Everywhere. Pervasive.
So his conclusion, always avoid a wicked person. It really drives home how dangerous he perceives such people to be, affecting everything around them.
It's a vivid analogy, isn't it? Highlighting the extreme danger and pervasive toxicity. Not like animals where the venom is localized, predictable. The wicked person's malevolence affects everything they touch. Every interaction, every aspect of their character.
So he's not just speaking metaphorically.
I don't think so. He's advising extreme caution, strategic distancing. The implication is that even minimal contact can be detrimental. It can contaminate your environment, your peace of mind, even your moral compass.
Which leads to the question, how do you even discern such pervasive wickedness, especially when it might be hidden?
That's the challenge. It's often cloaked in charisma, false promises, and what boundaries are necessary for your own well-being and integrity when you can't always completely escape negative influences.
It's a call for sharp discernment.
And radical self-preservation in your relationships. Be very careful who you associate with.
This next observation from Chanakya about poverty is, well, it's stark.
Yeah.
Rather heartbreaking, actually.
Yes, Loka 14 is powerful.
He states that for the childless, the house is empty. Okay. For the brotherless, directions are empty. For the fool, the heart is empty.
Setting up a pattern of emptiness.
Right, but then he delivers the final blow. For the poor, everything is empty.
The ultimate emptiness.
And he concludes, unequivocally, poverty is a curse. It really drives home how devastating poverty can be, way beyond just the lack of money.
It does. What's fascinating is the profound psychological and social dimension, he adds. It's not just economic lack.
It impacts everything. Emotional landscape, Social standing.
Sense of purpose, self-worth, belonging. Yes, he systematically shows how different kinds of deprivation lead to emptiness. But poverty creates this complete void, a profound spiritual and social emptiness. It's like a living death, he suggests later.
So how should societies address that, beyond just material aid?
That's the crucial question his words raise. How do we address that deep emptiness? It means tackling social exclusion, fostering dignity, ensuring people can participate in society, acknowledging the huge psychological toll of destitution.
Looking beyond just the economic numbers.
Exactly. Seeing the full human cost.
Okay, this next point is incredibly layered. It gets right to the quick, really. It connects individual responsibility, social reality.
Yeah, so 15. It's complex.
He draws this powerful parallel. Just as good food is harmful, like poison, when you have indigestion.
Right. Context matters.
Continuous non-practice makes scriptural knowledge, shastra janana, like poison.
Knowledge without application is useless, even harmful.
Exactly. And he extends this. He says for the poor, any assembly or festival is like poison.
Why? Because of the humiliation.
Precisely. He says even if someone is learned without practice, they can't properly analyze knowledge. They become an object of ridicule. Experiencing humiliation worse than death, the poor person is humiliated at gatherings, sports, fairs, places where only the wealthy are truly welcome.
That's a searing social commentary, how economic status can completely negate intellectual achievement in public.
It shows how knowledge and social interaction are just so intertwined with economic status.
Absolutely. This passage highlights two critical connected points. First, knowledge without practice is inert. It may be dangerous, like having a map but never using it. It can lead to arrogance without competence.
Right. And the second point.
The brutal reality of social exclusion due to poverty. The poor aren't just materially deprived. They're socially marginalized, humiliated in contexts meant for enjoyment. That humiliation, worse than death, is a powerful statement.
So what's the takeaway for us?
It raises a vital question. How do we ensure knowledge remains a tool for empowerment for everyone? And how do we prevent poverty from becoming this insurmountable barrier to social dignity and participation?
Addressing systemic inequalities.
It challenges us to do just that, to ensure talent and intellect can flourish regardless of economic background.
Okay, this next one is so relatable, that feeling of never enough.
Ah, yes, the human condition.
Chanakya saw it thousands of years ago. In Sloka 13, he observes that all beings, past, present, future, remain unsatisfied with wealth, life, women, and food.
The desire never ends.
Exactly. The desire for these things, he concludes, never ends.
And what's compelling is how universal that observation is. It's a core philosophical insight into Trishna, the insatiability of desire, a perpetual state of wanting, regardless of what you possess, an endless cycle of craving.
So true contentment doesn't come from fulfilling desires.
He seems to suggest not, because it's an impossible task. Maybe it comes from managing them, transcending them.
Through mindfulness, appreciation, non-material pursuits.
Perhaps it's ancient wisdom directly confronting our modern consumerist culture. If these desires are inherently insatiable, what other pathways to fulfillment or peace can individuals pursue? A very deep question.
Now let's talk wealth itself. Chanakya has a surprisingly nuanced perspective. It's powerful, yes, but comes with huge responsibilities.
Right, it's not just about having it.
He says a miser's wealth, locked away, is useless to society. He compares it, quite pointedly, to a prostitute's money used by the wicked, not for good causes.
Ouch. Strong comparison.
He argues wealth should be used for social welfare, charity, helping the needy.
A functional view of wealth.
Yet he also acknowledges its undeniable social power. In Sutra 254, the wealthy person is respected by the whole world.
Reality bites.
He even says in Sutra 257, an ugly person with wealth becomes handsome, and a great king without wealth isn't highly regarded. Sutra 255. Poverty, he repeats, is like living death. Sutra 256.
So wealth brings respect, status, masks flaws.
It seems so. But then he also advises, protect wealth for times of adversity. Sutra 535. Practical self-preservation.
Makes sense.
And he strongly warns against stealing. Sutras 267 to 269 basically say death is better than theft, and stealing leads to your own destruction.
Ethical boundaries are crucial.
Plus, ill-gotten gains, Sutras 494, 495, are consumed by bad people, like crows eating bitter neem fruit.
So wealth is powerful, essential even, but how you get it and use it matters immensely.
Exactly. It's a functional view. Wealth isn't an end in itself. It's a means for societal good, personal security, social standing, but hoarding it or getting it unjustly makes it poisonous.
It's a fascinating paradox, crucial for well-being and respect, yet its value is determined by how it's used, its utility for the greater good, not just its accumulation.
How does that compare to today? We glorify wealth, but also criticize greed.
It raises that question, doesn't it? How does modern society square that circle? We praise philanthropists, condemn corporate greed. Chanakya's message about the use of wealth remains incredibly relevant.
Okay, back to basics now. A stark reminder of fundamental human needs, food.
The absolute foundation.
In Sutra 270, he states simply, gruel, yavagu, sustains life in the world. Then in Sutra 275, there is no wealth equal to grain or food.
Elevating sustenance above all else.
And he stresses the primal power of hunger, Sutra 276. There is no enemy like hunger.
Hunger is the ultimate adversary.
He warns lazy people are fated to die of hunger, Sutra 277, and makes that chilling observation in Sutra 278. For the hungry, nothing is forbidden.
Desperation overrides everything. Morality, law.
Exactly. What's striking is how he frames hunger as this enemy, a force that can break down all rules and norms.
It highlights the desperation it breeds. And it raises that critical question. In a world with so much abundance, why does hunger persist as such a pervasive challenge?
And what are the societal implications when this enemy is allowed to thrive, affecting stability, dignity, driving crime?
Chanakya's words are a timeless call. Ensure basic food security. It's the absolute foundation of a stable, ethical society.
All right, let's dive into Chanakya's thoughts on governance. This is truly a comprehensive look at the philosophy behind good leadership.
Yes, he lays out this foundational philosophy, connecting personal virtue directly to effective leadership and societal prosperity.
He describes this intricate chain of virtue, doesn't he? Sutras 1 through 6.
That's right. Happiness comes from dharma, righteousness. Dharma comes from artha, wealth or prosperity.
Yeah.
Artha comes from raja, the state.
Okay, so far so good.
The state's prosperity comes from indriya jaya, control over the senses. Indriya jaya comes from vinaya, humility. And humility comes from serving elders.
Wow, it all loops back to the leader's inner state.
Yeah.
Self-control, humility.
Precisely. He also emphasizes the minister's crucial role, understanding what is to be done and what is not to be done. Sutra 32. Very practical.
And the king's conduct towards the people.
Crucial. A king who doesn't actively check on his subjects destroys them. Sutra 555. One who does keeps them happy. Sutra 5556. And a just king is seen as their mother. Sutra 557.
That's a powerful image. It's a truly holistic view, connecting the leader's inner world to the kingdom's prosperity.
Absolutely. When you look at the broader implications, it suggests effective governance isn't just about policies, power, economic models. Fundamentally, it's about the character of the ruler.
The entire state's well-being flows from the king's self-mastery.
That's Chanakya's view. Indriya Jaya, control over senses and desires, is paramount. A king swayed by personal indulgence inevitably fails the state.
So how relevant is that character-first approach today in modern democracies?
That's the important question, isn't it? Leaders are often chosen based on policy platforms, charisma, political skill, not necessarily demonstrated self-mastery or humility.
Chanakya's idea implies a leader's internal state directly impacts the people's well-being. That transcends specific political systems.
It really does. A powerful concept.
Okay, now let's explore where Chanakya really shines as a geopolitical strategist, his insights on diplomacy.
Yes, the Arthashastra influence is strong here. Pure, real politic.
Centuries before the term. He gives incredibly pragmatic advice on foreign policy in Sutras 48 to 57, all about self-interest, power dynamics.
No illusions there.
He states bluntly, neighboring states are often enemies, Sutra 48. Similar states become friends, Sutra 49. But ultimately, enemies or friends are made for a reason, Sutra 50.
Strategic calculus, always.
He advises a weak king, make peace quickly, Sutra 51. Because the purpose of a treaty, Sandy, is to achieve strength, Peshas, Sutra 52.
Use peace strategically to build power.
Right. He uses analogies like unheated iron cannot be joined with iron, Sutra 53. You need leverage, the right conditions for agreement.
You can't force an alliance without the right circumstances.
And he's clear. A strong king should attack the weak, Sutra 54, but never one stronger or equal, Sutra 55.
Know your limits. Don't pick fights you can't win.
He compares fighting a strong adversary to infantry fighting an elephant army, Sutra 56, futile, or an unbaked pot shattering against another unbaked pot, Sutra 57, the fragility of weak powers clashing. It's calculated, almost ruthless.
It is. What's compelling is the cold, unwavering logic applied to state interactions. It prioritizes survival, strategic advantage, sentimentality. No place for it in diplomacy or war, according to Chanakya.
The analogies really drive home the futility of fighting when disadvantaged.
They do, reinforcing the need for shrewd assessment of power dynamics capabilities, which raises the question, how much of modern international relations still operates on these ancient power-based principles?
Despite all the talk of cooperation and shared values,
Despite the rhetoric, yes, the underlying reality of national interests, strategic alliances, balance of power. It often aligns perfectly with Chanakya's pragmatic view.
nations might use soft power now, economic alliances.
True, alternative forms of strength, but the fundamental calculus of relative power and strategic advantage. It remains remarkably consistent. His principles offer a stark lens for analyzing geopolitics today.
And building on that strategic mindset, he constantly stresses vigilance, an unwavering focus on strategy.
Never let your guard down.
Sutras 58 to 60. Always observe the enemy's efforts. Even with a treaty, don't ignore the activities of a neighboring state. And emphatically, always keep an eye on enemy spies.
Constant intelligence gathering.
It's a powerful reminder. Even in peacetime, vigilance is essential. A perpetual state of strategic awareness. Non-negotiable statecraft.
Absolutely. Looking at the broader implications, it's about anticipating threats, understanding others' motivations, never becoming complacent, recognizing intentions can shift, hidden agendas might exist beneath the diplomatic surface.
It's a timeless principle, isn't it? Not just politics.
Not at all. Business strategy, competitive sports, personal security, constant intelligence, monitoring competitors, diligent risk assessment are vital everywhere for long-term success.
But how do you maintain that vigilance without becoming paranoid, especially today with so much information, disinformation?
That's the balancing act.
Yeah.
It requires sophisticated analysis, critical thinking, a nuanced understanding of potential adversaries, and their evolving strategies. Not easy, but necessary.
Okay, this next section is fascinating. A real glimpse into courtly manners, power dynamics in ancient times.
Dealing with authority. Chanakya has detailed advice.
Incredibly detailed etiquette for interacting with power, specifically the king. Sutra 64-66. Never act against the king, don't dress ostentatiously, don't imitate the gods.
Know your place. Don't overstep.
He emphasizes, Sutras 369-371, one should always be afraid of the king. No greater deity than the king. The fire of a king's anger burns far and wide.
Fear is a necessary tool for order.
And practical advice on approaching royalty. Sutras 372-378. Never go empty-handed, don't envy the royal family, visit the court regularly, maintain good relations with royal officers, don't associate with royal maids.
Avoid potential complications and intrigues.
And remarkably, never make eye contact with the king.
Wow. Strict protocols.
Beyond royal conduct, he stresses keeping secrets, critically important. Sutra 33, advice is exposed by 6 ears, it leaks if more than 2 people know.
The original loose lips sink ships.
Basically, don't reveal your own secrets or weaknesses. Sutras 194-533. Don't tell secrets to tattletales. Sutra 242. And foolish people tend to reveal confidential matters told by their master. Sutra 208. It's all about navigating hierarchies, protecting information.
It really is. Which raises the question, okay, monarchies like that are rare now, but how do these principles translate? Respecting authority, protecting confidential info in modern corporate or political environments.
His 6 years concept seems timeless. Information security.
Absolutely, even without a king. In corporate settings, respect the chain of command, understand the subtle culture, maintain absolute discretion about sensitive business info, client data, trade secrets, strategy.
The warnings about revealing weaknesses, listening to other secrets, still relevant in competitive business.
Highly relevant. Information leaks can be just as damaging now. It shows the fundamental dynamics of power, influence, information control remain surprisingly consistent across millennia. Knowing these unwritten rules can mean success or failure in any hierarchy.
Okay, another theme, discipline, self-mastery. Chanakya warns consistently against self-destructive behaviors, bad habits, nayasana.
Yes, a major focus for him.
Sutra 68. Someone indulging in nayasana cannot achieve their goals. Sutra 69. A king ruled by his senses perishes quickly, even with a massive Chaturangini army.
Internal weakness undermines external
I
strength.
think he warns against specific vices, gambling, Sutra 70, excessive hunting, Sutra 71, being engrossed in sensual desires, Sutra 73. These lead to loss of dharma and artha,
Righteousness and wealth both suffer.
But he makes a key distinction in Sutra 72. The desire for wealth itself is not a vice. It's the uncontrolled pursuit.
Nuance. Important.
He also singles out impatience. Sutras 212, 213. Someone without patience, even if they gain prosperity, will perish eventually. An impatient person has no present or future.
Undermines long-term success.
It seems Chanakya is saying, without internal control, external power or opportunity is ultimately meaningless. A clear call for discipline.
It really is. And what's fascinating is how universally applicable these ancient warnings about vices are. They describe fundamental behavior patterns that sabotage success in any domain, any era.
His perspective leans heavily on personal accountability.
Very much so. True power comes from mastering oneself first. These aren't just moralistic pronouncements, they're pragmatic observations on what enables or hinders lasting achievement.
Which makes you ask, how do modern societies address these self-sabotaging behaviors? Do we focus on external factors, support systems?
Or do we, like Chanakya, put enough emphasis on individual self-discipline, character development as primary drivers? His wisdom insists self-governance is the prerequisite for governing anything else.
Okay, let's talk justice. Dan Neeti. He really highlights its double-edged nature.
Yes, the science of punishment, or really governance through authority.
He outlines its crucial role, maintaining order, ensuring protection, even bringing prosperity. But he also warns about its misuse.
A delicate balance.
Sutra 74. Harshness of speech is worse than setting fire. Sutra 75. Severely punishing an innocent person makes them an enemy seeking revenge.
Punishment must be just, or it backfires.
He believes Lakshmi, prosperity, abandons a king who only cares about wealth, not justice. Sutra 76. Citizens are protected by proper application of Dandaniti. Sutra 78. The justice system itself brings prosperity. Sutra 79.
Justice is functional, essential for stability and wealth.
But absence of Dandamiti leads to flaws even in ministers. Sutra 80 increases bad deeds. Sutra 81. Yet, crucially,
What warning?
Sutra 143, use appropriate punishment, not overly harsh. Sutra 142, people despise a king who administers harsh punishment. It's essential, but misuse is destructive.
Exactly. Connecting this to the bigger picture, it underscores that delicate balance needed when wielding power. Dandaniti isn't just retribution. It's the whole system of governance, law, order, enforcement, the king's authority.
It's about maintaining social order, deterrence, fostering trust.
All of that. Ensuring overall societal well-being. Punishment must be fair, proportionate. Undue harshness undermines legitimacy, fosters resentment, instability.
Which raises the question for modern justice systems.
How do they balance deterrence and retribution with fairness, rehabilitation, maintaining public trust? Chanakya reminds us a justice system's effectiveness is deeply tied to its perceived fairness and its ability to serve the people's well-being, not just impose penalties.
Okay, this next section feels like a masterclass in, well, project management and just getting things done straight from ancient India.
Yes, his philosophy of action is incredibly detailed and robust.
He emphasizes proper means, upaya. Sutra 93. No task is difficult with proper means, but Sutra 94, a task done without proper means perishes even if started.
Method is critical.
For enterprising people, the means itself is the helper, Sutra 95. Then he balances effort and destiny.
Always that interplay.
A goal is achieved by human effort, puruhakara, Sutra 96. And famously, Sutra 97, fate, daiva, follows human effort.
Effort comes first. Fate follows.
But he clarifies, fate supports only proper effort, Sutra 98. No success for one depending solely on fate, Sutra 99.
So effort is necessary, but it has to be the right kind of effort.
Then he stresses planning and execution meticulously. First decide, then begin the work, Sutra 100.
Plan before you leap.
Do not procrastinate in the midst of work, Sutra 101. A fickle-minded person fails, Sutra 102. One who understands time achieves the task, Sutra 106.
Timing is everything.
He even advises, do tomorrow's work today, Sutra 537. Do afternoon's work in the morning, Sutra 538. Do not neglect even a moment in any task, Sutra 108. It's all about intentionality, preparation, relentless execution, seizing the moment.
It really is. What's striking is that balanced perspective on fate and free will. Destiny exists, maybe, but it follows effort. That's incredibly empowering.
It puts the onus on the individual to act decisively, proactively.
Absolutely. Not passively waiting. He encourages this methodical, disciplined, timely approach, emphasizing upaya, the proper means, is paramount.
It's quite a contrast to modern culture sometimes, speed over thoroughness.
Often, yes. or seeking immediate returns over sustained, well-planned effort. Which raises that important question.
Hmm.
How can we cultivate this kind of disciplined, thoughtful action in our fast-paced lives?
With all the distractions, instant gratification temptations.
Exactly. His emphasis on means, timing, consistent effort. It's a timeless blueprint for achieving any objective, big or small, and avoiding procrastination and indecisiveness.
He also gives a very practical framework for dealing with problems, obstacles.
Yes, distinguishing between different types.
Sutra 122. Natural calamities, divine obstacles, try to avert them with peaceful actions, remedies.
Things beyond direct control.
Then, Sutra 123. Man-made obstacles in work, overcome them by skill, kaushala.
Things you can control through ingenuity.
And in classic Chanakya style, Sutra 124.
Yeah.
Fools just describe flaws when work fails. They just complain.
Yes. Blame instead of solving. It's about recognizing what you can and can't control and reacting appropriately.
Very pragmatic.
It is. Connecting it to the bigger picture, it's about developing resilience, a proactive, analytical, problem-solving mindset, discernment, distinguishing obstacles, then strategic response, not despair or blame.
Highly applicable today.
Definitely. Some challenges, natural disasters, pandemics are divine in that sense.
Yeah.
Beyond direct control, requiring mitigation, spiritual fortitude, collective action. Others, human error, inefficiency, competition, are man-made, demanding ingenuity, diplomacy, strategy, practical skills.
Which makes you ask, how well do we distinguish between what's truly out of our control and what can be managed with skill and effort?
And a determination to learn from failures, not just complain. It's a call to intelligent, adaptive problem solving.
Okay, this next section is full of really beautiful metaphors about the power of association, the value of truth.
Yes, truth, Satya, is fundamental for him.
Sutras 414, 418. Truth leads to heaven. No penance greater than truth. Truth is the means to heaven. The world is sustained by truth. Gods are pleased by truth.
Truth as the bedrock of existence.
Conversely, Sutra 419, no sin greater than falsehood. He advises, don't speak what is pleasant but not beneficial. Sutra 429. The tongue is the source of both poison and nectar. Sutra 439.
Choose your words wisely. Their impact is immense.
And beautifully, Sutra 440. A sweet-spoken person has no enemy. He also values humility, Vinaya, as the ornament of all. Sutra 426. An uncultured but humble person is superior to a cultured one. Sutra 427. Good conduct increases life and fame. Sutra 428.
Humility and good conduct are paramount virtues.
And those analogies for good company. Sutras 176, 178. Water mixed with milk becomes milk. Clay gains fragrance from flowers. Silver becomes gold near gold. So too, an unqualified person becomes qualified by associating with the virtuous.
The transformative power of association.
Good company, he says in Sutra 517, is like living in heaven. It really reminds you your environment, your companions, they shape you profoundly.
They do. And what's compelling is how he presents virtue not just as abstract morality, but as a practical tool for success, happiness, spiritual, and worldly.
Truth, humility, good company are pathways to a better life.
Exactly, both individually and collectively. He champions that profound, almost alchemical influence of associations. Good company isn't just pleasant, it's actively transformational, beneficial.
Which makes you wonder, in our fragmented digital world, how do we actively seek out good company, environments that genuinely uplift and transform?
Not just entertain or confirm biases. That's the challenge. Chanakya urges us to be intentional about human connections, recognizing their power to elevate or diminish us.
Okay, now for his advice on avoiding foolishness. Again, incredibly blunt, but remarkably practical.
No time for fools in his worldview.
He observes in Sutra 228 that fools possess a certain kind of courage, maybe recklessness.
Perhaps. Brashness without wisdom.
But Sutra 229 advises, never argue with them. Sutra 230 suggests, if you must interact, speak to fools in their own language. Implying logic is futile.
Communicate on their level, don't expect rational discourse.
He even says an ignorant person is like a demon, Sutra 525. A fool only sees others' faults, never their own, Sutra 342. Books teaching idleness appeal to the unintelligent, Sutra 516. And simply, a fool has no friend, Sutra 232.
A bleak assessment of foolishness.
It stresses picking your battles, knowing when to just disengage for your own sanity.
Absolutely. Connecting it broadly, it suggests wisdom lies not just in what you know, but crucially in who you engage with and how.
The wise person sees the futility of reasoning with the unreasonable.
Exactly. It's about pragmatic assessment, where to invest your intellectual and emotional energy. Which raises that question for today. In our interconnected world, constantly exposed to diverse, sometimes irrational views.
online and offline.
How do we apply this ancient wisdom about dealing with fools without becoming dismissive or arrogant ourselves?
Discernment, not broad judgment.
Focus on effective communication where possible. Or protect your own peace and purpose by knowing when to disengage. Preserve your sanity, your productivity.
Okay, this brings us full circle. From statecraft, daily life, right back to the deepest philosophical questions. Existence, liberation.
The ultimate destination in his thought.
He reflects on impermanence, the pursuit of liberation. Sutra 562, no fear of the world for the knowledgeable. Sutra 563, the lamp of knowledge removes the fear of the world.
Knowledge is the antidote to existential fear.
He reminds us everything is impermanent. Sutra 564. The body, while a vessel of worms, feces, urine, it's also the profound cause of merit and demerit. Sutra 565.
The vehicle for karma, despite its unpleasantness.
He concludes in Sutra 566, there's only suffering in birth, death, etc., and the medicine for suffering, nirvana, liberation, Sutra 483.
The ultimate goal.
And he adds one last pragmatic touch, Sutra 484, an intelligent enemy is better than a bad friend.
Predictable opposition is better than treacherous friendship. A final, wise, almost cynical flourish. It's a powerful, introspective end to such a pragmatic text.
It really is.
And what's profoundly fascinating is that ultimate goal he points to. Not just worldly success, political power, but liberation from suffering.
So knowledge is the supreme key for navigating the world and transcending it.
That seems to be it. Transcending its inherent impermanence and pain. He acknowledges the body's ephemeral, often unappealing nature, but also its critical role as the vehicle for accumulating karma, the very means to liberation.
Which raises that final big question for you, the listener.
How do we integrate this?
What?
The pursuit of worldly success, practical wisdom, which Chanakya spent so much time on, with this deeper philosophical quest for understanding spiritual liberation in our own lives.
Finding meaning beyond just the material, the ephemeral.
A lifelong quest, perhaps.
So what does this all mean for you? We've journeyed through, well, the intricate, sometimes challenging wisdom of Chanakya and Neeti, uncovering insights on everything from strategic leadership, astute statecraft, to profound personal conduct, navigating complex relationships, even contemplating the very nature of existence and liberation.
It's covered a lot of ground.
It's undeniably clear, I think, that ancient wisdom like Chanakya's offers powerful, often blunt, but always timeless principles for navigating our complex modern world.
Indeed. From that very pragmatic advice, who to trust, how to manage resources, how to lead effectively,
Right.
to the profound reflections on karma, impermanence, the path to liberation. Chanakya encourages a life of, well, discipline, sharp discernment, and deliberate, purposeful action.
He challenges you, doesn't he, to look beyond the superficial, understand the deeper mechanics of cause and effect in your personal life, in society.
He really does.
You've seen how he consistently prioritizes strong character, relentless effort, strategic thinking, reminding us that true, lasting success is built on a robust foundation of values, self-mastery, and a really keen understanding of human nature. Its predictable patterns.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the Chanakya Neeti isn't just some historical text to be studied academically. It's a dynamic guide to thoughtful living, urging you to apply intelligence, unwavering ethics to every single aspect of your life.
It encourages you to be vigilant.
Choose your company with profound wisdom.
And understand that even small actions have far-reaching, often unforeseen consequences.
The ripple effect.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. If, as Chanakya suggests, fate follows effort, what single deliberate effort could you initiate today that might reshape your destiny, or perhaps even your society's destiny, in the most profound way?
Something to think about.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep digging deeper.